Food allergies can cause severe reaction, even death, but some food allergic consumers take risks because of their distrust of labels, primarily because of the proliferation of precautionary allergen labeling. I am your TAG Talks host, Lisa Lupo, and today I'm talking with TAG Director of Food Safety, Brent Kobielush, on the issues associated with precautionary allergen labels on food. Good afternoon, Brent.
Good afternoon, Lisa.
So can you start by discussing exactly what precautionary labeling is and why its increasing use is an issue?
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. Precautionary allergen labeling is really the manufacturer's last line of defense to communicate a potential risk that the food may pose to the food allergic consumer who may be allergic to an ingredient or ingredients in that particular food. I think, part of the reason that proliferation occurs is, one, we know more and more about particular ingredients that pose a risk to the food allergic consumer. There may be legal liabilities, so our legal professionals may play a role in influencing a manufacturer's decision to label a given food product. But I think, a large part of it is we really don't have a set standard holistically and globally as to how we should approach precautionary food labels for the allergic consumer.
Okay, so it is clear, though, that it's important for manufacturers to use this labeling very judiciously. So how is it regulated?
Really, a large part of it, and globally, it's not regulated. This is where the manufacturer really should take a risk-based approach to the allergen labeling and labeling of their products. But we see that largely this is not regulated. There may be nuances that are regulated in terms of type of words you can use throughout in certain jurisdictions throughout the world, but largely, especially here in the US, Canada, etc., this is a unregulated approach to labeling practices, so long as it's truthful. The one area that is consistent throughout the world is that labeling cannot be used in lieu of GMPs. And so if you are labeling as a cover your rear end type tactic from a legal perspective, or to think that this will protect you from legal liability should a food allergic consumer consume the offending food, it really should not be used in that manner. But I think we see that throughout industry here and there, that it isn't used judiciously. In fact, it's used rather liberally, which drives some of this concern in the food allergic community's eyes as to whether or not should I trust it, should I not trust it? And it really gives rise to risks being taken by certain individuals within the food allergic community.
So, without any real hardcore regulation, how can the food industry approach this precautionary allergen labeling in a more systematic way to help protect consumers?
Yeah, I think what's lost on a number of food industry professionals that make decisions around precautionary allergen labeling statements is this idea of a risk-based approach to it. I've talked about risk-based decision making in prior TAG talks, but in 2001, a group of industry professionals really formed the Food Allergy Issues Alliance, and they put forth 4 criteria which were important to consider before using precautionary allergen labeling. Now, when I give you these criteria, keep in mind that all 4 have to be met before a label should be issued on the finished product. And what are these 4 criteria? Well, criteria number 1 is whether the presence of a major food allergen is documented through visual examination or analytical testing of the processing line, equipment, ingredient, or product, or by other means. Say you have a potential impact within your supply chain, cross contact may occur. of the ingredient that you may be utilizing in the finished product formula. Criteria 2 is whether the risk of presence of a major food allergen is unavoidable even when current good manufacturing practices are followed. Specifically under FSMA and even beyond FSMA, we know, and what I previously mentioned, is that labeling in lieu of GMPs is not allowed. Now, what is current good manufacturing practices? We have to be pragmatic about what an appropriate GMP approach is in terms of sanitation. For instance, I don't think it's appropriate to put individuals in a confined workspace because it presents a risk to human health and worker safety risk to clean certain pieces of equipment. But I have also seen certain manufacturers spend 4 whole days cleaning a line to make sure that they avoid cross contact from product to product on that given line. And so GMPs are going to be specific to your line, specific to the form of the allergen, whether it's a particulate, whether it's sticky butters like almond butters, peanut butters, these types of things. So keep in mind, GMPs, labeling in lieu of GMPs is not allowed and is against the law. The third criteria is whether a major food allergen is present in some, but not all of the product. And the fourth criteria is whether the presence of a major food allergen is potentially hazardous. So all 4 of those criteria need to be met before adding a precautionary allergen label on the finished product. And really, manufacturers should really think about the need to introduce a potential allergen to their particular product line. And it should not be up to the manufacturing facility to make that determination, because it's too late then. Really, where these decisions need to be made and need to be to have the conversation around this is really in the R&D space. You know, potential new product, where we're going to make the product, which facility we're going to make it. Are we going to have a third party make it? Are we going to make it? How are we going to introduce this allergen or potential allergen? Can the facility and where we're going to introduce this manage this allergen? Or do we need to start adding labels to existing products? All these questions are very important. I don't mean to get into the weeds here because I think they're topics of discussion of future tag talks. But I think that at the R&D level, that's where a lot of these decisions and discussions need to be made before we go down the path of precautionary allergen labeling and whether it's needed.
Okay. Thank you very much, Brent. Before we end here, though, I'd like to ask one more question. So what would you see as the one sentence takeaway that viewers should remember from this talk?
I think the one sentence takeaway is that there's 32 million Americans that suffer from food allergies. I think Ann Munoz Furlong, the founder of what was known as FAN, now it's known as FAIR, Food Allergen Research and Education, which is a consumer advocacy group for the food allergic community. But Ann Munoz Furlong said that it's the ripple effect of food allergens. It's not just the 32 million allergic sufferers within America, but the ripple effect is family members avoid that offending allergen. So you're really talking about more than just 32 million individuals that will avoid a product based on how it's labeled. And the quality of life of individuals is very difficult. They go to the store, they have to read every label because in some cases it's life and death. And we do not want to, we want to discourage this risk taking that's taking place because it's really just bluntly playing Russian roulette with food. And it's very important for manufacturers to make right decisions, making sure that the labels are truthful and that follow this risk paradigm and not just a cover your rear end type tactic of labeling, because then you're just eliminating that potential product from an individual's food choices in the marketplace, which further decreases their quality of life. And so judiciously looking at this from a risk-based approach is not only good for the consumer, but it's also good for your business.
Great. Thank you again, Brent, very much. And thank you, viewers. And we hope that this session of TAG Talks has furthered your understanding of precautionary allergen labeling and the need for its judicious use. And know that you can call on Brent or any member of the TAG team for questions or assistance at any time. And be sure to check out TAG's full line of TAG Talks videos on YouTube and click to subscribe to stay up to date on all things food safety and public health from TAG experts. Thank you.